February 11th, about 1:40 p.m. Why don't we establish a quorum? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella, Leyva. Aye. Leyva here. Mitchell? Here. Mitchell here. Fuller? Here. Fuller here. De Leon?
Here.
De Leon here.
Okay, fantastic. We have established a quorum present here today. I want to welcome the members of the Rules Committee. Welcome, and always, our Vice Chair, our Rules Committee, Ms. Fuller. Welcome. We don't have an extensive agenda. We have a rather short agenda before us today. We have two appointments from the governor. They are required to appear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take Miss Rowena Libang Bobila. Did I pronounce it correctly? I hope so. If not, please correct me. I want to do my best to pronounce your last name correctly. I'm going to bring you up if you want to say anything. If there's any family members, if you have any family members here today, I want to make sure that we acknowledge any family members who have come up. I know you have a personal issue that you have to get to urgently, so I don't want you to spend a lot of time, I know, during the interviews with staff as well as interviews with the members themselves. Folks feel very confident about you. But if there are any family members that you have with you today, I want to make sure that we give them an opportunity to be recognized. And if it's entirely up to you, depending on your time, because I know the urgency of your situation. If you want to share a few words, be mindful. Please, not mindful, I'm sorry. It's up to you entirely.
I would like to recognize, thank you for the opportunity to be present.
Please, have a seat.
I also would like to recognize my family members as well as the lottery staff who's been instrumental in my being here today. I would like to recognize my husband. We've been together for over 20 years, Darwin Bubilla.
Okay.
I also have my our only child, Chloe Bubilla, who is 10 years old.
Hi, Chloe.
I also have two support people. That's Hazel Fong and Linda Brown.
Okay, welcome. Ms. Brown and Ms.
Hazel Fong.
Hazel Fong, Ms. Fong. Okay, you're welcome.
And also, I would like to recognize the members of the lottery team.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being here as my support.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, I know that you impressed during the interview process with the members behind the scenes. If no members have any questions, which I doubt at this moment, if I can entertain a motion. Okay, we have a motion by Senator Mitchell. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Canella, Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell? Aye. Mitchell, aye. Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. De Leon?
Aye.
De Leon, aye.
Okay, your confirmation in the Rules Committee passes on a 4-0 vote. What we'll do is we'll move your appointment to the Senate floor for a full confirmation vote. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Why don't we do one thing before you leave, Ms. Libang Bobila, is if there's any folks who actually have come up here to be in support of your nomination, we'll give you a quick 20, 30 seconds for those who may want to come up. Feel free, no pressures at all whatsoever. Hello, good afternoon.
I'm Hazel Fong, and I've known her for about 23 years, I think. But she's just been a great parent and mom and dedicated to her family. And that's what I know about her. And she just has a great moral compass. So I think this is the perfect candidate for you.
Thank you, Ms. Fong.
Thank you.
Any other folks in support? Any other folks in support? Please feel free, Ms. Brown.
Hi, my name is Linda Strong Brown, and I want to say that I've known Bro for about 20 years, and I know that she will be a great asset. She's a great attorney, great mom, great wife, and she'd be great for the California public education system. So I'm very proud of her, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. Anyone else? Okay. I'm seeing none. I have to ask, any opposition? No opposition? Anyone who's agnostic? Seeing none, again, thank you very much and congratulations once again. Okay, thank you. Okay, now go ahead, please. Yes. Okay, the next appointment before us, governor's appointment, is member of the ALRB, the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. That is Mr. William Gould. Mr. William Gould, please welcome. Mr. Gould, welcome. Are there any family members or loved ones that you'd like to introduce? Please do so.
Yes, there are. Thank you. My wife, Elizabeth Gould, who's sitting back here in the middle, is here. And unfortunately, my 3 sons and my 4 grandchildren are in the Los Angeles area, and it was inconvenient for them to be here.
Understand.
With me also are Karen Snell, who's a distinguished San Francisco lawyer and a graduate of Stanford Law School, as well as Eduardo Blanco, my senior legal advisor. I don't know where Eduardo is sitting right now, and who's with the board. And I think the board members are here, Genevieve Sharoma, and also member Rivera Hernandez. I think, I don't know, I saw member Sharoma. I know member Rivera Hernandez has been under the weather.
She's right there.
Oh, she is, okay.
She made it for you.
Okay, well, anyway, if I may, Senator, may I make a comment or two?
Absolutely, please.
I'm here today that I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here, to distinguished members all. I've enjoyed meeting with a number of you, to have the chance to give back to California some of what the state has given to me since we settled here in July of 1972. I'm honored to have been appointed by Governor Brown as chairman of the board and to appear before you this day as his nominee. Let me just say that it was 21 years ago that I appeared before the United States Senate Labor Committee as President Clinton's nominee to be chairman of the NLRB in Washington, and I feel fortunate to be able to use that experience and more than a half a century of work as a labor and employment law academic, an arbitrator, and practicing labor lawyer to be able to serve California. I'm aware that this challenge is formidable, comparable to my service in Washington, where I fostered law enforcement, prompt law enforcement, and attempted to enhance dialogue between the parties. I'm committed to use my time here in Sacramento to make this statute, the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, a greater reality to farm labor and to farm growers, to reach the forgotten, particularly the undocumented and the indigenous who toil in our fields, to expedite our procedures so that delay will not deny justice for all those who appear before us, and to listen carefully to all who are within our jurisdiction and in the public. 150 years ago, my great-grandfather, William Benjamin Gould, having escaped slavery and served 3 years in the United States Navy, completed his work for Uncle Samuel, as he called our Uncle Sam, in the War of the Rebellion. And now in 2015, if I, as his great-grandson, can be confirmed, I will do the best that I can to honor the people of California with the same commitment that he and his comrades demonstrated at that time. Thank you very much for your patience, and I welcome any questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gould. I appreciate your opening statement. I want to open up for our colleagues here on Rules Committee questions. We'll start with Ms. Leyva.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gould. It was, excuse me, it was a pleasure meeting with you this morning. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I will thank you publicly, as I did this morning, for your willingness to take on this responsibility. We talked a little bit about how you would go about speaking to and educating folks who come from those indigenous areas, and I really liked your answer, and I thought maybe you could share it with the other members of the committee.
Yes, Senator, it was a pleasure to meet you also, and I appreciate the time with you. One of my primary objectives is to bring the reality of this statute to people in the field, many of whom cannot read literature and notices that are posted from time to time by our agency and other agencies, to physically transmit to the employees, the indigenous people, the undocumented people, what the content of our law is and what rights and obligations are under the statute. And I hope to be able to do that as we proceed in the coming months to make this law a reality for those who are affected by it.
And I like that you said you wanted to go out and meet with them personally, not you, but your staff, to meet with them personally rather than sending them letters, which they probably couldn't read. So I think that's terrific, and I look forward to your confirmation today.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Senator Leyva. Ms. Fuller.
We had a good conversation on Monday and discussed at length the need for balanced and fair reforms of the current process to ensure justice isn't being unduly delayed or denied, and I appreciate that being your opening sentence. I do, however, have a question that I'd like to have on record, an answer that you sort of answered for me in the office. And that is, I appreciate that the Gurwan Farms issue started before your time on the board. However, you've been on the board for almost a year now. What steps will the board take to ensure, what steps will you urge the board to take? I'm not sure that you can speak for the whole board. To ensure fair and impartial actions are taken to resolve this issue for the employees and their employer in the future.
Well, with regard to the Gurawan matter, Senator, that train is already on the tracks. It's on the tracks, of course, in a number of fora. The one that affects us most immediately is a hearing involving unfair labor practice allegations and election objections that began in late September and that will run, we are told, before an administrative law judge, we are told it will run until the middle of March. That administrative law judge will ask the parties to brief him, and when he's briefed, he'll issue a decision, and that decision will be, if the parties wish, appeal to us, and we will issue a decision as promptly as we can. I think, Senator, the issues that we addressed when we spoke in your office on Monday relate to what I'm going to try to do in general with regard to the cases that are coming down the road to us. And I expressed an interest in moving in 3 areas. One is to make our mediation and conciliation law more streamlined to make this move more effectively and expeditiously so that parties are not waiting months for mediators, arbitrators to resolve their cases in the field. 2, I expressed an interest in situations where election objections are filed with us, and they can be controlled directly by the board, to, under some circumstances, immediately or within a reasonable period of time, go forward and hear those cases and resolve representation issues arising out of those election objections, and not wait for the much more lengthy process which may follow thereafter. I pointed out to you, Senator, that we have, for better or for worse, we have appeals that come from our decisions to the courts, which also contributes to delay. But we will try to move as quickly as we can on these representation issues and through the election objection forum. Thirdly, of course, what I want to see us doing is to use the tools that we have to obtain temporary injunctive relief against alleged unfair labor practices, so that we don't wait for the administrative unfair labor practice process to take months, sometimes years, to play itself out. And that, of course, is the problem, to return to your point with regard to Gurawan. That is the problem that we face now with Garawan. We have these cases that are being heard. We'll have a decision at some point much later this summer in all probability. That will be appealed to us. And I give you my pledge that if and when it is appealed to us, we will act on that decision, on that matter, as quickly as humanly possible.
Thank you, and you really did touch on my next question about what are you going to move forward on and how are you going to implement that. So I appreciate that hope. I think all of us feel that a lot of cases sort of clog up there and linger on for many years. And I think everyone would probably like a breakthrough so that people could have some certainty along the way. And I just have one last question and I'm done. So what are you doing to keep the lines of communications open so that employers and employees are best served under the Agricultural Labor Relations Act?
The lines of communication. Well, we are holding in April a 40th anniversary conference, which the public is invited to, and all concerned with our statute is invited to. We've invited as speakers representatives of management, representatives of labor, and board members who have served in past administrations, going back to the time of Governor Deukmejian, and we hope that this will be a chance for us to re-energize people, and again, get the word out to people about what is going on in our law. Secondly, we are having in late June a conference that will be held at the Stanford Mansion. I told the people who run it that I'm sure that I'm a Democrat senator, and I said that maybe they had been meeting the Stanford Republicans, and they would meet a few of the Stanford Democrats there after I've been at Stanford all these years. So we're having that at the Stanford Mansion. And then thirdly, what I want to do is to have a meeting in the fall. We've already had a preliminary meeting to get new people into this mediation and conciliation process. One of the big problems we face in the mediation conciliation area is that we have too few qualified people that the parties can call upon, or at least too few people that the parties are aware of. And so what we want to do is to reach out to the new people, the younger people who may have qualifications, to bring them together with representatives of both labor and management. And so what we want to do is have a conference later on. Then finally, what I want to do is bring a group of labor and management representatives together, as my predecessors have done, so that we can open up a two-way discussion and hear what's on their mind. As you may know, Senator, we have public meetings, and that is a vehicle also for anyone who is dissatisfied with what we're doing and wants to point out what we're doing wrong in their view and how we can do it better, to let their position be known to us. We didn't have that at the NLRB, and I was surprised that we had that here, and it's a great vehicle to do it. I'm sorry for, as a law professor, Senator, I realize that I run the risk of speaking much too extensively.
Actually, your qualifications are impressive, so you are just displaying impressive qualifications. That's okay with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Senator Fuller. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pro Tem. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator.
I was worried that Mrs. Gould was going to come up and pull the back of your jacket there a moment ago, but
She's been known to do that from time to time.
I saw her giving you the eye, so I'm glad that you cut yourself off. I just wanted to acknowledge, sir, clearly a 50-plus year lifelong commitment to the study of law and teaching, and for Californians to have a former chairman of the National Labor Relations Board to come and serve in this chairmanship is truly an honor for all of us, and I appreciate your commitment and your willingness to continue to serve. Californians. And with that, Mr. Pro Tem, I have no questions. I congratulate you.
Thank you, Senator Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Senator Mitchell. Mr. Gould, without a doubt, looking at your resume, I know we didn't have an opportunity to meet, albeit we did meet somewhat very briefly. I think it was a governor's reception over at the Railroad Museum. It was very brief, but looking over your resume right now, obviously it's as impressive as it gets. You're obviously a very distinguished law career, and obviously in academia at Stanford Law School. One of the best universities and one of the best law schools we have in the country. So very, very impressive. Couple questions. One is, help us perhaps understand the structure of the ALRB, given that the board as well as the general counsel are independent of each other. And it's a sort of a unique hybrid structure that is not quite common, either in state agencies, public agencies, or even in the private sector, obviously. It's this hybrid combination is quite unique. So explain how that functions, the independence of the board as well as the general counsel. Then a follow-up to that question, to having a better understanding of the structure, this hybrid structure at LRB is for the power of subpoenas, to execute a subpoena. Why is it that the general counsel has to seek the support of the board itself, if in fact, if it's a hybrid and independent of each other? It's a very unusual, unique, structure that you have, and perhaps you can educate us a little bit, one, on the structure itself, and two, the reasons why you believe, or I don't know if it's the reasons why you believe, you can share what you want to share, but why is it that general counsel has to seek authorization to issue out a subpoena?
Yes, sir. One, the general counsel has independent authority to investigate unfair labor practice allegations and to determine whether those cases should be dismissed or whether they have cause. She has cause to believe that a violation exists. And if so, if she finds that there is cause to believe a violation exists, the matter, she issues a complaint. And that complaint triggers a proceeding before my side of the board side of the board, before an administrative law judge. We are charged with quasi-judicial responsibility in determining whether or not what the law is to be. Now, there are a number of anomalies in the statute, this demarcation line between prosecution and between adjudication. And for instance, the statute, beyond the subpoena issue, authorizes the board to seek temporary injunctive relief, the kind of thing that I referred to with Senator Fuller. And the board, the general counsel, only has authority by virtue of delegation from the board. The reason that the board becomes involved at various stages during the prosecutorial portion of the statute is that the board is the supreme policy maker, and the board is the final arbiter on on the content of the law, the way in which the law is to be interpreted. And that is why, both at the federal level, through the Congress, and through the state level, through the legislature, the board is given authority to intervene at various points during the prosecutorial stage because of the fact that contact with the courts may create, if it becomes necessary to go in the courts, the board should control that because that involves a policy issue and the board is supreme on policy.
So there is not a clear demarcation line then? It's not black and white? Because on one end, I'm hearing the adjudication side, the prosecution side. We have a hybrid system that
Right.
exists currently right now, whether it's an anomaly in this agency in
Yes, sir.
particular. I'm not familiar with the federal agency, how the national, ALRB, is constituted. But the word that you use, quasi, for
Yes.
example, so the quasi-ness, if you will, I'm making up a word myself right now, so for our understanding, there's not a really clear demarcation line, even though on paper there is independence. General counsel's here, prosecution, adjudication, the board making policy, which is the board itself, independent of each other. There's a quasi-ness to this right now. There's not a very clear black and white demarcation between
Well, I
the two.
only meant to use the word quasi to distinguish our role from the judiciary overall. That is that our orders are not self-enforcing. We have to go into court. And sometimes some of the rules that we may use are not known to the courts, because the board is a specialized agency, it does not follow strictly all aspects of a judicial proceeding. As I say, it has to go into court to enforce it. In that sense, it is quasi. There is a fairly pristine line between prosecution for the general counsel and adjudication for the board. But from time to time, in the midst of that prosecution, the board becomes involved in the instance in which you mentioned, and also in the injunction area, because of the fact that whenever there is contact with the courts, there is the potential for shaping the law in a manner which must be consistent with the way the board interprets it. And the board is supreme on law.
How would you describe the current dynamics right now with the independence of the board and the general counsel?
In what sense, sir?
The actual functional working relationship, not the theoretical with the law being supreme with regards to the policy-making, adjudication powers of the board itself, but rather the functional aspect.
Well, I think there's, Senator, an inherent tension between these two. Some people have called it a two-headed monster, this hybrid situation. I think there's an inherent tension between the general counsel and the board, sometimes who speaks for the board. Some of these lines, although I've referred to them as pristine, they're gray. So by the nature of the system, this was true when I was in Washington, there's going to be tension, and there's going to be differences of points of view, and sometimes, hopefully, there'll be a coalescing of points of view. So that's the way it is here in Sacramento now, Senator, and that's the way it was in Washington when I was there.
That's the way it is here in Sacramento with regards of your agency.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, because I would agree with regards to the inherent natural law of tension that exists, say, for example, executive branch, legislative branch.
Yes.
You can be all on the same page politically, partisan-wise, but there's always this inherent, tension with regards to the roles. One is executive, one is legislative, and then again, going back to the anomaly of this particular agency in itself with the quasi and then fine, pristine line, if you will, and the quasi-ness. It's this very unique hybrid situation between general counsel and the independent board that you're part of the governance structure. If a worker is fired,
Yes, sir.
who seeks the TRO, the temporary restraining order?
Well, right now, where a TRO is sought, by virtue of the fact that the board has delegated this authority to the general counsel would do so. The general counsel is obliged under the delegation agreement to file all copies of papers that she files with the board.
So does the general counsel seek the temporary restraining order unilaterally, or only does so at the request or authorization approval of the independent board?
At this point in time, Senator, she seeks it unilaterally because the board has delegated to her for a number of years the authority to seek injunctive relief. She only has the authority to proceed unilaterally because the board has delegated this authority to her in a series of documents that go back, oh goodness, almost to the beginnings of this board.
So conversely, the board itself can reverse that policy and require general counsel to seek authorization from the independent board if it chooses to do so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay. With that, if there's no other questions, I'd like to have your supporters come up and testify. Or not testify, share a few words.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you like me to?
No. Please stay. Please
right.
stay, Mr. Gould. Please stay. Please stay. Those in support of the nomination of Mr. Gould, if you could be so kind to come up, just identify yourselves and share a few words. Welcome.
Mr. Pro Tem and members, Caitlin Vega for the California Labor Federation. We are here in support of this nominee. As many of the committee members referenced, we really could not have a more distinguished candidate for this position, someone who, I would say nationwide, there is almost no one who rivals Mr. Gould in the level of experience and demonstrated commitment to labor law. And so we feel very fortunate that California has the opportunity and that he's willing to continue to serve in this capacity. We understand the challenges faced by all workers when they try to assert their rights on the job, but particularly for farm workers, those challenges are more pervasive and more serious. And so we believe that this board has a critically important mission to ensure that all farm workers have the right to make these decisions free from intimidation and harassment, and that really this board has to look at the economic imbalances of power that exist for farm workers in this state. We have confidence in Mr. Gould that he will do that, and we're pleased to be here to support his nomination.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vega. Next witness in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Shane Gusman on behalf of the Teamsters in strong support of confirmation. I have not had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Gould, but our leaders who have nothing but respect and confidence in his ability to do this job, and most importantly for us, give a fair shake to the workers who are trying to have a better life.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gusman. Next witness in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Ian LeMay here on behalf of Barry Bedwell and the California Fresh Fruit Association. We would just like to lend our support to Mr. Gould's confirmation. Thank you.
That's a nice breadth of diversity that you have in support of your nomination here today. Any other folks in support of the nomination of Mr. Gould? Seeing none, those in opposition? Seeing no opposition, may I entertain a motion? We have a motion that's been made by Senator Leyva. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Cannella, Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Mitchell. Aye. Mitchell, aye. Fuller. DeLeon.
Aye.
DeLeon, aye. Should we close it or leave it open?
Here we go. Let's call the roll again.
Senators Cannella, Fuller.
Okay. Mr. Gould, congratulations. You are confirmed from the Rules Committee on a 3-0 vote. Your confirmation will go before the full body on the Senate floor. Congratulations.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, we're going to be done in just a few moments. We got file item number 2 with regards to Canada Day and dignitaries from the General Counsel or the Consulate of Canada. Can I get a motion? We have a motion. We have a motion
So
by
moved.
Ms. Mitchell.
And maybe we should clarify, too, that any ambassador or consulate level is generally honored under this, and some of the members don't always understand that, so we make it free, because when we get to later in the year, then everybody still has a lot of people to introduce, and there's too many And so we have to sort of stick to this rule at that time. So,
That's a very good point. I think that what happens is with the rush of so many very important guests at times and the demands to have folks speak up, usually it's been, usually by far and large, been for folks who are dignitaries, foreign dignitaries of such. You know, sometimes we make, you know, exceptions, you know, here and there, but by far and large, that's been the rule. So with that, we have a motion that's been made by Ms. Mitchell. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Cannella, Leyva, Leyva I. Mitchell, Mitchell I. Fuller, Fuller I. DeLeon,
Aye.
DeLeon I.
Measure passes on a 4-0 vote. We're going to adjourn the Senate Rules Committee, and we're going to go into executive session.